There are many beasts in the wide world of Middle-earth. Among the birds, there are those who ally with the free peoples, while others would serve the dark powers. Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover the ravens, crows, and Crebain of Middle-earth. Our first mention of these birds comes in the pages of The Hobbit. As Bilbo and the dwarves are making their way toward Erebor from Lake Town, they follow the river running toward the front gate. Out of it the waters of the river running sprang, and out of it too there came a steam and a dark smoke. Nothing moved in the waste, save the vapor and the water, and every now and again a black and ominous crow. The only sound was the sound of the stony water, and every now and again the harsh croak of a bird. Balin shuddered.
"Let us return," he said. "We can do no good here, and I don't like these dark birds. They look like spies of evil."
Balin and the dwarves may have had even more reason to despise crows than just their ill look. For after Azog had killed King Thror, Thorin's grandfather, the orcs had hacked up the king's body and flung the pieces to nearby crows to devour. While these birds certainly looked like spies of evil to Balin, the crows we see in The Hobbit are shown to be nothing more than carrion birds, an ominous sign of the battle to come. So it was that Bard's messengers found him, now marching with many spearmen and bowmen, and crows were gathered thick above him, for they thought that war was awakening again, such as had not been in those parts for a long age. We also find mention of crows in the adventures of Tom Bombadil, here called Gorcrows. They are said to croak in their sleep and live in damp marshes along with other evil creatures like the Mewlips, which we'll have to cover in a future video. While the crows of The Hobbit were merely looking to feast on the carnage of war, in The Lord of the Rings we meet a variety of crow that is known to serve the enemy, the Crebain. We meet these large birds as the Fellowship passes through Hollin, the lands once known as the realm of Erebor. One day, it is Sam's turn to keep watch, and he asks a still-awake Aragorn about a shape in the sky that does not look like a cloud. He made no answer. He was gazing intently at the sky, but before long Sam could see for himself what was approaching. Flocks of birds, flying at great speed, were wheeling and circling, and traversing all the land as if they were searching for something, and they were steadily drawing nearer. "Lie flat and still," hissed Aragorn, pulling Sam down into the shade of a holly bush, for a whole regiment of birds had broken away suddenly from the main host, and came flying low, straight towards the ridge. Sam thought they were a kind of crow of large size. As they passed overhead, in so dense a throng that their shadow followed them darkly over the ground below, one harsh croak was heard. Not until they had dwindled into the distance, north and west, and the sky was again clear, would Aragorn rise. Then he sprang up and went and wakened Gandalf. "Regiments of black crows are flying over all the land between the mountains and the Grey Flood," he said, "and they have passed over Hollin. They are not natives here. They are Crebain, out of Fangorn and Dunland. I do not know what they are about. Possibly there is some trouble away south from which they are fleeing, but I think they are spying out the land. I have also glimpsed many hawks flying high up in the sky. I think we ought to move again this evening. Hollin is no longer wholesome for us. It is being watched."
"And in that case, so is the Redhorn Gate," said Gandalf. "And how we can get over that without being seen, I cannot imagine. But we will think of that when we must. As for moving as soon as it is dark, I am afraid that you are right."
"Luckily our fire made little smoke, and had burned low before the Crebain came," said Aragorn. "It must be put out, and not lit again." These Crebain were indeed the spies of the turncoat wizard, as Gandalf would later reference the crows of Saruman. Not only would the Fellowship be aware of these evil birds, but so would the Rohirrim. When Éomer meets the three hunters on the plains of Rohan, he reveals that Saruman has claimed lordship over their lands, and that they are at war. He lists orcs, wolf riders, and evil men as being among Saruman's servants, before saying, "It is ill dealing with such a foe. He is a wizard both cunning and dwimmercrafty, having many guises. He walks here and there, they say, as an old man hooded and cloaked, very like to Gandalf, as I may now recall. His spies slip through every net, and his birds of ill omen are abroad in the sky. The Crebain from Dunland and Fangorn are certainly listed among the servants of the enemy, yet not all birds would do so, or even remain neutral. There are indeed those who aid and befriend the free peoples. The most obvious of these is the great eagles. Yet there were birds extremely similar in appearance to the crows, who had a great friendship with the dwarves, the ravens. I thought you did not like them. You seem very shy of them when we came this way before.
Those were crows, and nasty, suspicious-looking creatures at that, and rude as well. You must have heard the ugly names they were calling after us, but the ravens are different. There used to be great friendship between them and the people of Thror, and they often brought us secret news, and were rewarded with such bright things as they coveted to hide in their dwellings.
Like the great eagles, the ravens of Ravenhill near Erebor were capable of speech. In the time before Smaug's attack on the Lonely Mountain, the chief of these birds was Kark. He and his wife dwelt above the guard chamber on Ravenhill during Thror's rule. Thorin would later recall from his youth that Kark was both wise and famous during the years before the dragon. By the time Thorin and company come to Erebor in 2941, Kark has long passed away. Instead, the dwarves would meet Roak, the son of Kark. Born 18 years after Smaug takes the mountain, Roak is now 153 years old. Roak brings news to the dwarves that birds are returning to the area, for Smaug is dead. He tells of the attack on Lake Town, and that already a host of elves are on the way. He also shares that among the lakemen, many murmur that their sorrows are the fault of the dwarves. He tells Thorin in his croaky voice,
"Your own wisdom must decide your course, but 13 is small remnant of the great folk of Túrin that once dwelt here, and now are scattered far. If you will listen to my counsel, you will not trust the master of the lakemen, but rather him that shot the dragon with his bow. Bard is he, of the race of Dale, of the line of Girion. He is a grim man, but true. We would see peace once more among dwarves and men and elves after the long desolation, but it may cost you dear in gold. I have spoken."
Thorin is angry at this advice to give any portion of the dwarven treasure to others. Yet he politely asks that Roak and his ravens bring news of any who draw near to the mountain, and should they have any among them strong of wing, to carry news to Dane in the Iron Hills, for Thorin's cousin could bring well-armed dwarves in haste.
"I will not say if this counsel be good or bad," croaked Roak, "but I will do what can be done."
Then off he slowly flew. In the annotated Hobbit, Douglas Anderson suggests that Tolkien's use of the ravens in The Hobbit is similar to that found in Norse mythology, specifically Odin's two messenger ravens, Hugin and Munin. Later, Roak would bring news that Dane was on the way with 500 dwarves. Though the wise old raven gives a grim warning to Thorin. He fears that the force from the Iron Hills is unlikely to overcome the host that besets them.
"And even if they did so, what will you gain? Winter and snow is hastening behind them. How shall you be fed without the friendship and goodwill of the lands about you? The treasure is likely to be your death, though the dragon is no more."
Of course, Roak's words would ring true, as Thorin would indeed meet his end in the ensuing Battle of Five Armies. Presumably, Roak and his raven kind would continue to dwell at Ravenhill and continue their friendship with the dwarves of Erebor, now under the rule of Dane Ironfoot. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who make this channel possible. Tom DeBombadil19, Lissamy the Cinda, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Charles Leisure, CCDC Red Team, Joe Tepper, The Mighty Mim, Andrew Carlisle, Swirled Traveler, Matthew Jeffrey, Viking Lord, Alvin Einbert, Jeremy Daniel Derby, Leo Vittori, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Berto Berg, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Micah Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description to purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.